Thank you for joining. My name is Takoya Urbina, and I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm friends with Yetunde, and she, in addition to several other people, have expressed interest in knowing more information about becoming an expat and moving abroad. So I put together a PowerPoint presentation that will go over a few steps, things that you should consider before moving so that you are aware of what's needed before you leave and what's needed and expected once you get there. So please forgive me if I get a little distracted. I am admitting people as I talk, and that may throw me off, and I don't want to miss anything. So just please bear with me for a second. But we're going to move into the presentation. Let me switch to this. Please let me know if you can see the next slide. Do you see where it says introduction? Thumbs up? Yes? Great. Okay. So once again, my name is Takoya Urbina. I'm a single mom of 3. My oldest is 20, and then I have 2 teenagers in high school, both 15 and 16. And I made the decision several years ago to leave the country, but we did actually leave and stay in Portugal for about a month, and that experience was a beautiful, eye-changing or eye-opening experience because we got the opportunity to see what people across the pond live like, the experiences living as an expat for about a month, really helped to put in perspective the one moment. Okay. It really helped to put in perspective the perceptions that other countries have about Americans and how we were perceived as an American, not just as people of color, but also coming from a first world country where they were used to having more asylum seekers, people from Africa and India. So it was just a really eye-opening experience for us. And because things didn't work out where I was able to return with the job that I was promised, I had to reassess the situation. I had to look at my current income and see where in the world I could go that would give me the same amount of security and welcoming spirit that I found in Portugal. And after looking at several different places and assessing my needs, my requirements, I decided to choose Colombia based on several referrals. After doing my own independent research, I agreed that it was the best situation for me and my family. And that's where we are headed to at the end of the month. So we will be leaving on April 1st, to go to Colombia. We'll be in Medellin for about a week. And then from there, we'll move to Bucaramanga, which is a mid-sized city about 70 miles south of the Venezuela border. So it's been an incredible journey coming to this point, and I expect it to continue to be a journey and an adventure for all of us, one filled with learning experiences and other opportunities for me to share what I've learned with others who may want to take that same journey. So I ended this slide with a quote that I heard that I think sets the tone perfectly. Wherever you go, there you are. Because it doesn't matter what your motivations or what your interest is in moving, you're still carrying yourself with you. So however you leave, that's how you're going to arrive. So I would like for everyone who's interested in moving to think about that. Like, think about who you are as a person, what strengths, what weaknesses you hold, and what things you want to learn about yourself in the process, because this is a learning experience. Once you go through this, you're going to learn things about yourself. But if you have any weaknesses that you carry with you now, you're going to carry that in the future wherever you land. So I would just say to work on yourself now before you go, so that when you get or go through the process or actually arrive in your new location, you'll have that foundation to build on, because it will test you. It's very frustrating, and depending on where you go, it can be an incredible culture shock. Even if they are a first world westernized country, they may not do things that you're accustomed to or even that you like. So people, countries, policies, governments will test your patience. I just encourage everyone to look at the experience with an interest in learning and growing, and it will take you through it, and it'll benefit you in the process. Moving on, the first steps. So these are things that I believe are the first things that you should do before you actually buy a ticket. You should know, or at least research, where you want to go, what things are important to you, whether it's having access to top tier standard medical facilities that are comparable to the US, whether that's someplace that is has favorable climate. Some places don't have seasons. If you want to go to a place that has seasons, you may not want to go to South America, you may not want to go to Asia. These are things that you should take into account. And right now, because of the current political climate and the geopolitics of everything that's going on with Iran, that's also something that you should consider, because whereas maybe a year or two ago, Dubai was hot and everyone wanted to go to the EAU, that's not necessarily the place you want to be right now. And thinking forward, knowing that oil barrels are climbing to almost $200 a barrel now, that's going to affect the entire world, not just westernized countries. So knowing all of these things that are coming into play, it should definitely make you pause and assess the situation to find out where you would feel most comfortable moving. Another thing to consider is securing an income. Do you already have a job that allows you to work remotely? Do you have a business that you can transfer to another country and set up there? Are you retired? Do you have property that you rent out? All of these things are important when looking at your visa opportunities. And some places, they are more favorable to entrepreneurs that are coming to their country to set up businesses that will help out their own economy versus digital nomads or people who are retired. Things like these are definitely something that you should think about before deciding to move, because if you don't have a remote job, you don't own property, you're nowhere near retiring, you don't have $50,000 to put towards a passport for citizenship, you may want to start looking into opportunities that you can move into. And we'll go into that a little deeper in a few slides ahead. But I just wanted to put that in your brain for right now. And then when you are deciding on where you want to go, I'm looking for places that have established expat communities. If that's something that you're interested in, that's definitely an area that you should research. For me personally, being in Lisbon for twice, because I went to Portugal twice, and Lisbon is not for me. I mean, I could throw a stone and hit somebody from New Jersey. I just can't be around that many Americans. It's not for me. So that's why I picked Bucaramanga, because it's not a heavy tourist location. Most expats don't even really know about it. So it's very culturally intense for me to go there and see just Colombians. I'm looking forward to that. But that may not be for you. You may want to go to some place like Thailand and settle in Bangkok, where there's tons of Black Atlantans that live there. So just think about that. What type of community are you trying to settle in? What type of culture are you trying to establish yourself in? One that is um, that has a built-in community that you can just walk into or get to know before you even leave, so that you can make those connections, so that when you get there, you won't arrive new and not knowing anyone. So that's just something that I would say consider before you start really doing deep dives into individual countries. Okay, next slide. Okay. Oh, let's go back then. How do I go back? Oh my goodness. How do I go back? Okay. Countries to consider. So you can go over this list. If you notice, I did not put Colombia on the list under the Americas, and I did not put Portugal on the list under Europe. Even though I love Portugal, and even though I'm very excited about Colombia, I have my reasons for not including them. Under the Americas, I did not include Colombia because they are getting ready to go through a new election cycle. And right now, their top two candidates are socialist and right wing. So we don't know which way the pendulum is going to swing. We don't know how the election results are going to affect the country itself, as far as visas and the number or the types of residencies and the income level that will be needed for you to get a visa in the country. So I held off on putting that on the board, as well as Portugal, because Portugal is going through changes with their immigration, and it's not quite certain how that's going to land, as far as the requirements in order to enter under certain visas. And in addition to that, it's getting very expensive. If you want to go somewhere that is not going to rob you of your entire check, Portugal is not it. There are some very small places, smaller towns, where you can stretch your dollar a little further, but many people go for the big cities like Porto, the Algarves, Lisbon, and that is incredibly expensive. And I wanted to keep the list with places that are more favorable to expats. So in the Americas, of course, you have Canada. There's tons of Americans that go into Canada to work and don't actually live there. But I also put Canada because that was one of the countries where Black people left to go to during the slavery era. So the Underground Railroad went all up to Canada and into Nova Scotia. So there is an established Black presence in Canada that goes all the way back to the Civil War. We have Belize, and I've stated previously in the former presentation that we had, Belize is one of those places where you could go there and you can pretty much live perpetually. You don't have to even get a citizenship. You just renew your visa every year. And I think it's about $100. Don't quote me on that. I didn't really do a deep dive into how much the visas were for Belize, but I know that you can renew them every year and extend them indefinitely. Panama is a very popular spot. It's great for African Americans who want to assimilate into a culture that is more aligned with African American culture. Even though it is a Latin American culture, they do have a heavy Caribbean population there and influence there. So they're very warm and welcoming towards African Americans. And as in relation to Europe, someplace in Europe like the UK, it's a little bit cheaper. Your dollar can stretch a little bit further there. Paraguay is one of those hidden places that not many people talk about, but it is a really good place to stretch your dollar, and is very safe. And it's very favorable for expats as far as visas. And for Asia, of course, everyone knows about Thailand, but Vietnam is also coming up as one of those places that are really good for expats, and they're finding a lot of favorable visas in order to move into the country. Singapore is just one of those places that they have high tier education, high tier medical facilities. I don't know too much about their income or their visas, but it is a great place that expats are finding. They're finding a footing there in that country as well. And as far as Africa, there are only 3 real places that I think personally are really good for expats, and that's Kenya, Ghana, and South Africa. Kenya is one of those countries that is rivaling Silicon Valley. So it's growing exponentially in the economy and their tech sector. So that's definitely something that should be on the radar for people who are interested in Africa as a continent. Kenya is a great opportunity. You can stretch your dollar there, and you can get a footing in if you are already coming from a tech sector. Ghana, everyone loves Ghana, especially because of the move that Ghana put out to get more African Americans to come in. It is getting more expensive. And I don't really know if that's going to cap or level off, but it is somewhere that they have a deep rooted established relationship with the African American diaspora, and they want people to come into the country. So it's a very welcoming place where your dollar can stretch. And I think that that's a good option as well. South Africa is probably one of the most beautiful countries on the planet. And although it has a bad reputation for their violence, I mean, if you compare that to some places in the US, I don't know if it is really all that violent, but it's a beautiful country. Your dollar will stretch in South Africa. And the country politically is stable. So that's definitely a place I did have it on my list, but it's just too far for me. So Africa and Asia for me are just out of the question. I'm not going that far. But for you, it may work. For Europe, because they're having issues with Russia and constantly being under threat of, I guess, invasion by Russia. And because one of the things that I don't like about Russia is that, not Russia, Europe, is that they now require biometric scanning when you come in. So they capture all of this in order to let you in. I have a thing against privacy. I don't want everybody knowing my entrance and exits. So that's why I'm not looking at Europe. But as far as the continent, there are several places. Ireland's very favorable. Depending on where you go in Ireland, because half of the country's on the euro, and then the other half is on the pound, because it's with the UK. So depending on where you go, that'll determine how far your money goes. I have heard great things about Ireland as far as how they are warm to Black people. Never been, can't speak to that, but I have heard really good things about Ireland, and they do have a program where you can buy property on a barrier island of Ireland, and they will pay you to move there. So that's something that you can look into. Same as Switzerland. So those are the 2 reasons why I put them on the list, because they do have programs that they will pay you to move there. If that's something that you're interested in, I suggest you look into that. Albania is one of those countries where you can go there for an entire year and don't have to worry about getting a visa. So if you just want to test out being an expat and you're not ready yet to determine where you want to settle permanently, but you want a soft landing to begin, Albania is a good place because it's beautiful. It's on the Mediterranean Ocean and the people are warm. Your dollar will go far. And as I said, you don't have to worry about getting a visa until a year later. Okay, visas. So these are the most common types of visas to look into if you're trying to move abroad. You have the retirement based. You are done working, you don't plan to work. Certain places like, I believe it's Mauritius. You can move to Mauritius but they want you to be retired. They do not want you to work. So if you are working 2 days a week, they don't want you. They want you to come with your retirement money and just relax on the beach. That's something to consider. Passive income, that means that you have property. You're just sitting back and collecting money from your rental property and you're not doing anything. Digital nomad, you have a remote job. Now, sometimes digital nomad can also spill into independent contractors, people who have their own businesses, but they work on the computer. That is what they would consider digital nomad. Anyone who doesn't have a physical location that they need to go into work. Investment, that means that you have money. You have money that you just want to spend, and you can give it to an investment property in another country. Some places like Portugal, they have taken away the investment visa because so many people were buying property and not living there, but they wanted access to the visa and the citizenship. So they X that. They were like, look, we're not allowing you to buy property because that's taken away from the property of the people that can live here. So that means that you now have to invest in a business, an organization, or a nonprofit in order to access that money or that visa. So that's another way that you can do that. Student visa. So a lot of people think that in order to get a student visa, you have to be a teenager, you have to be in your 20s. No, you can be 70 years old and get a student visa. You don't have to even sign up for a college or a university. You can take a foreign language course, like how to learn Italian or how to learn Japanese at a local foreign language school and still qualify for the student visa. So that is definitely a path that should be considered when you just want to get out and you want options. Heritage based. Italy stopped it. So now Italy was like, too many of y'all are trying to come over here, pretend to be Italian, and y'all don't know nothing about Italy. So they're like, X, you're not coming. But Ireland still does. So if anyone has any sort of record of an Irish ancestor, great-grandparent, great-great-grandparent, you may be able to get a heritage-based visa for Ireland. And that's still true of some places. I don't know all of the places, but that's something that you could look into. And then family heritage, family fiance visa. I'm not telling anyone to go out and get a man, get a wife in order to get a visa. Not saying do that, but that is also a way to get a visa. So as far as the time limit or the time amount that you can have on a visa, you have the 60-day tourist visa. And for the United States, we do have that liberty. A lot of places don't have the freedom of having this much time on their visas, and they have to jump through more hoops than we do. That may change, but for now, there's the 60-day tourist visa, the 6-month extended visa, the 1-year visa free stay, that would be like Albania, and then definite stay visa. And I would put Belize in that because even though you do have to renew, there's no cap to how many times you can renew. So these are things that you should take into consideration when looking at visas and countries and the types of visas that you qualify for or would be interested in applying for? Oh my goodness. What am I doing? Okay. Please bear with me. This thing is not working right. I gotta go all over. Jeez. Okay. Let me stop sharing for a minute so I can fix this. Um, okay. One moment. I will, while I'm doing this, I will go ahead and take questions. If anyone has a question on what I've gone over so far, just please raise your hand and I'll go ahead and answer your question. Okay. Any hands? Okay. I'm trying to see if anyone has any hands. Okay. Okay. Yes,
Hi, great afternoon.
hello.
Thank you so much for sharing this important information. This is beautiful because I know that a lot of us are wanting to do this. So, my question would be, I am a single mom, and so how are you um, navigating moving your children with you?
Very carefully. My daughter is very excited about it. She's in college, so the intention is for her to continue to stay in college, online. My sons, I homeschool them, so as far as the education, I'm gonna have to be crafty about that. They do want to go to in-person schools, so I have found two schools in the area, in the city that I like. So my thought process is I want to find housing in the area of the school that we go with. So when we get there, I'm going to rent an Airbnb for about a month, not a month, but about a week or two, and take that time to meet with the schools and determine which school we want to go with, and then find a house or an apartment in that area so that they can walk. Now, how I'm going to navigate that with the school system here to make sure that they have everything transferred over there, that's going to be tricky. And that's where I say having patience and being creative and all of that comes into play because I don't really know what that's going to look like, and I have yet to connect with anyone there in that city that could direct me, so I'm going to have to figure it out when I get there. As far as their interests and their mental, they are in a place where they know they want to go. They know they don't want to stay, but it's still a frustrating process for them. So I take time and I talk to them and I ask them questions and I give them the ability to tell me as much or as little as they want in their own time because I don't want them to feel anxious about it and I don't want them to feel rushed, even though we are leaving in like 2 weeks. So there's still a lot that has to be done, but I'm being very patient and careful with how I talk about the subject and how I ask them to do things that I need them to do so that we can be prepared. Um, it's At first they were very excited And now I think now that we're moving, time is running out, it's starting to really get to them, be like, oh yeah, we're actually leaving. So their anxiety is increasing, and I'm having to put in more effort to reduce that. That make any sense?
Yes, I completely understand. Those nerves are like,
Yeah.
oh, it's really happening.
Yeah, it is. And it's a lot. But I think that, we will get there,
For sure.
and it's gonna be okay. I think that it's gonna be okay. So please forgive me if this looks a little wonky, because it's one of those things where I said in the call that this is gonna be very low key, loosely, operated, loosely structured. So I'm trying to pull up the presentation. We're gonna see if if I can get it to not show the entire thing, but I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to presentation mode. We're getting back into it. Okay, so as far as travel, depending on where you go, there are several ways to get there. I have looked up every single way I could get to Colombia without having to fly, and I could not do it. It's just not happening. I have to fly. So just be mindful of that. Depending on where you want to go, you can go by ships. I found out that I could go on a cargo ship. They do allow passengers on cargo ships. Who knew? Amtrak does operate in Canada. So if you don't want to drive, you don't want to fly, you can take an Amtrak into Canada. Greyhound goes to Canada. Flexbus goes to Canada. Greyhound and Megabus go to Mexico. So you can take a bus if you don't want to drive, you don't want to fly, and you don't want to get on a train. When I was going to Portugal, I hired a driver to take me from here to Jersey to then fly out of Jersey to Portugal. That it was an interesting fee, but it also allowed me to not have to worry about driving. So I was appreciative of that. Me and the kids, we just sat back, and we had a driver take us in a Sprinter van to Jersey, and it was a beautiful scenic route, and it was effortless. This time, and this is my caveat with the planes. If you have pets and they weigh over 20 pounds in the kennel, so that means that your pet and their carrier weigh more than 20 pounds, you cannot fly in the cabin of a plane with that pet. I don't care if it's an emotional pet or if it's a seeing eye dog. They do not want pets over 20 pounds in the cabin. Some planes may make an exception um for seeing eye dogs, dogs that have certification to be assistance dogs. But if you have a cute German Shepherd or Beagle, like my dog is a Beagle, and my dog alone weighs 30 pounds, I cannot take him on any American Airlines. I didn't say American Airlines, any US Airlines. They won't have it. I cannot put him in the cargo. They do not allow that. So I have to drive to Miami in order to put my dog on a plane and go out of Miami on a Latin American airline. So just please have that in mind when you get ready to go and you want to take your furry friend, your pet child with you. Yeah, you have to know that the planes are not going to allow the dog in the cargo hold. So just have that in mind. Um, yes, Anna, AK, do you have a question? AK, do you have a question? You're on mute. Okay, we'll come back to AK.
There we go. Sorry, I
Okay,
had to find the mute button.
okay.
Um, yeah, I have actually a couple questions. One is, what are your thoughts on like Morocco or Egypt as being possible places? And two, how would how do you uh, how do you suggest people work out like with co-parenting situations?
Okay, so the easier question. Morocco and Egypt. Right now, um, personally, I would stay away from North Africa and the Middle East just until everything dies down. Um, Not to say that Morocco is a target, but they is in Iran, they are targeting US US bases um around the Middle East, and I don't know if North Africa would be drawn into that just because they are, kind of considered Arab countries. Um so I would just say out of caution until things die down, um avoid those areas. That's just my personal opinion. You may meet someone that's like, I just came from Tunisia, I just came from Algeria, and it wasn't an issue. We didn't care. Um, Me personally, I wouldn't. As far as co-parenting, so I co-parent with my ex-husband, and um I just explained to him my reasonings for leaving. And because my kids are teenagers, it was easier for him to say, okay, like he didn't necessarily give me permission because I have primary physical custody, but he gave me his blessing. Um, I would definitely say have a talk with the co-parent and just lay out your reasoning as to why you think leaving is the best situation. I don't know your situation. It may be health related, it may be education, it may be just um finding some place that's more stable. I don't know, but whatever they are, talk to them and have an honest discussion and see if there's some compromise that you can come up to. Um yeah, hopefully that co-parent will understand and you can make arrangements based on that. Pam?
Yes, thank you. This is a beautiful presentation. I appreciate the information. Um,
My
I was
pleasure.
I was just curious if you had any thoughts, or maybe it's coming later in the presentation regarding banking. How did you
I do.
navigate, okay,
I
having a checking account, a savings account, flipping your money into, whatever is the currency there, those types of
do.
things.
So I do have a section on banking, and I have I think one or two links that I will drop in the chat so that you can be able to access those links as well. Give me 1 second. I need to turn this light on. It's getting kind of dark and I want you to be able to see me.
Okay.
Okay. So I will get to that. So hold on a few more slides, and when we get to there, if I don't answer your question when we get there, then we'll dive a little deeper. AK, do you have another question?
No, ma'am, I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Next up, language. So I believe in learning the language of the area that I'm going to. So when I was getting ready to go to Portugal, me and my kids, we studied Portuguese. Like every day I had them on the app. Like, did you study your Portuguese? Did you study your Portuguese? It did help. When I say it helped so much. So in Portugal specifically, the older generation does not speak English. Very few people above the age of 40 speak English. The younger generations, yes, because their films in Portugal are in English and Portuguese subtitles. So they're learning English in their normal day-to-day. So when we got there, even though we weren't fluent and we knew the basics, please, thank you, excuse me, basic stuff like that, it did help because the response that we got from the people that we attempted to speak Portuguese to, it made the interaction so much more engaging. They were happy to see that we were trying, we were putting in that effort. And that also gave my sons the confidence to walk around by themselves. So this was 2 years ago. So that means that they were 13 and 14 at the time. And mind you, here, they rarely leave the house. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe. They're like, anyone can pull a gun. They're like, we're not going. But there, they were walking around the city, around our neighborhoods. They were walking like 20 minutes away from our apartment by themselves and staying gone for hours in a place where not many people spoke English and they were comfortable. So having the basics, having that interest in learning the people's culture and trying to speak the language, it'll get you far and it'll give you more confidence so that you don't feel out of place. So you can go on YouTube and watch tutorials for free. They have them in almost every single language. Just pick the language that you want to learn and just practice. Join a Facebook group. There are many Facebook groups that have people who want to learn English, and you can build a relationship with someone by teaching them English and them teaching you whatever language it is that they speak. So you're building a relationship while learning in the process. Also contact local organizations. So wherever you live, I'm sure that there is like a local church or a school or a nonprofit organization that services that community of the place that you want to go to. Connect with them and see if there's any way that you could work as a tutor, volunteering your time, working with someone who doesn't speak English and you learning from them as well. There are so many different ways that you can learn outside of language apps, which definitely help, but you're missing that authentic and connective tissue that helps you to find some sort of resonation with the culture that you're trying to go into. So while you can definitely do Duolingo, I would highly recommend connecting with someone from the place that you want to go, because they'll also give you heads up about the culture itself, whereas the language apps don't have that. Okay. So I clicked and it didn't do anything. Okay, let's try clicking again. Jeez. Forgive me. I don't know what's going on with technology. It eludes me. I don't know why it's not going. Okay. Okay, income. There we go. Okay, so going back to income, like we talked about beforehand, if you have a in-person job, or even if you work remotely, but the company that you work for won't allow you to leave the country, that's something that you should also consider. A lot of countries, a lot of companies don't want their workers to be outside of the country for tax purposes, or they're just being annoying. I don't know, but that's something that you should definitely inquire about. And if for whatever reason they don't allow you to leave the country, you can get a VPN. Saying you can do that, or you can see about trying to get another remote job. And there are tons of companies websites that list remote jobs and positions that you can look into. And I've also included one or two in the link sheet that I will be posting in the chat as well. Foreign-based work. So there are companies like in China, some Canadian companies. There are companies all over the world that have remote work positions that you can look into. Location-based companies in the actual country that you're trying to move into. Now, the problem with that is in order to work in the country, you would need a work visa. And some companies don't want to spend for a work visa. So that's something that you would definitely have to research and look into to see if they want to bring on someone who is not a citizen of their country. And sometimes they will go ahead and do that. You may have to interview over Skype or Zoom here in the States before you get there. Sometimes they want you to interview in person. So that's something that you should consider as well. Teaching abroad is definitely an option. Now, the income is not great. It's not great, but it allows you to live there because you get a work visa and it pays for it pays for you. Now, as far as you and a family, it may not pay that much, but it definitely, if you're going as an individual, it'll definitely cover that. Being a business owner, there are opportunities to buy businesses in foreign countries. So like I was going to purchase a hotel in Portugal. I spoken to the business owner. I toured the hotel. I fell in love with the place. I was going to take over his business. I could do that as a foreigner. That's something that you can consider, or starting your own business there, or having moving your current business in the States over there. Now, there are laws associated with all of that, rules, taxation, all of that would need to be handled by a tax attorney, by someone who is proficient in that country's law in order to handle everything to make sure that it runs smoothly, but it can be done. And if you're a freelancer, well, you can work anywhere. You are a digital nomad. So that's not really an issue. The only issue that comes into play with any of this is taxation. And we're going to go into that in a couple more slides. So this is what I want everyone to know. A lot of people don't understand how LinkedIn works. And truly, I didn't understand how it worked. Let me get on camera. I didn't even know that. You didn't tell me that I wasn't on camera. Okay. In any case, so I recently learned about how LinkedIn functions. And because I learned about how they run their vacancy announcements, I was able to strategize a way to be hired. So I actually was hired for like 3 different jobs off of LinkedIn because I switched up my strategy. So this is a little hidden gem. You may want to write this down. If you want to get a job off of LinkedIn, you need to narrow your search to all jobs posted no later than 48 hours. So it must be within 48 hours of posting, and only apply for jobs that have 10 or fewer applicants. It has to be 10 or fewer. And make sure that your resume reflects what is needed and mentioned in the job description. And the reason why I say this is because on the back end, a lot of companies don't pay for the pro subscription, so they're getting a free posting, and that limits the amount of applicants that you can view to 25 people. So let's say you applied and you're number 26, that job isn't going to see you. So you need to be in 10 or fewer. And the reason why I say 10 or fewer is because they highlight the people who are highly qualified for that position, that using the keywords and the job descriptions, the people that more match the job description, they are going to be viewable. Not to say that you can't be viewed, but you're not going to be highlighted. So I posted a job for one of my employers. I have 3 jobs, by the way. So one of my employers wanted me to hire someone for the nonprofit, and I created a job description. And I think we had maybe 20 people that applied, but it only showed me like 5 to 7 people of the 20 people, because those are the people who more directly matched the job description. I had to then readjust the filter in order for me to see all applicants. I'm not saying that people don't do that, but I'm saying lazy people don't do that. And lazy people more than likely will only view the people that are suggested or highlighted. So you want to be one of the suggested or highlighted people. So make sure that your resume matches the job description, that you apply to jobs that have 10 or fewer applicants that was posted within 24 hours, and your application will be viewed, guaranteed. Okay, going on to TEFL and TESOL programs. This is how you can get teaching positions in other countries. Now, they had different levels of TEFL programs. They had 60, I think 120, and then 175 hours. So the more hours you have, the more, I guess, not necessarily reputable, but the more qualified you look to schools. So they have programs that range from a couple of $100 to a couple of $1,000. It all depends on your budget, what you can afford, and how much time you can dedicate. The TEFL programs that are only about like 30 hours or 60 hours, they don't require that much time. Whereas I took the one that was 175 hours, and that was 11 weeks of my life doing that program. And you had to do a practicum at the end, so a 20-hour practicum at the end. So it can be extensive or it can be minimal, but it definitely is an entry point into teaching abroad, and in both in-person and online schools. So if you're an entrepreneur, there's Fiverr. Fiverr is a great way to get your business out there as a consultant, so that people can see you active and you can get independent work online. And you don't have to charge a lot, but you can get a whole lot of clients in the process. Handshake is another good website that allows for both in-person and online jobs. So you can find a lot of companies hiring through Handshake, and it's very simple to set up a profile and you can get picked up just like that. Serious Teacher is where you go after you've gotten your TEFL certification. You can put a profile on there and apply for jobs online all around the world that has online teaching positions. So these are just some ways that you can make some income so that you don't have to feel stressed when you're in another country. Okay, moving on. Please go to the next slide. Thank you. Banking. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Are you serious? I'm sorry. I don't need to crash out on here. Let me see if I can go back. Let's see. Okay, taxes. Okay, we're at taxes. Or banking. Okay, here we go. Back to banking. Okay, so for banking, you have online banks, international banks, and American banks with international partnerships. So this is where it becomes a little tricky, because Pamela, you did have a question about how to transfer money and access money in different countries. And I want to start by saying Europe is, and I don't know if you've already heard about this, some people may not have, Europe is changing the way that they bank with America. So they are reducing their dependence on Visa and MasterCard. They're moving towards their own European system of banking so that they can be more independent of the US banking system. So when moving to Europe, I would say find an international bank or a bank that does work and has branches internationally. And this isn't just for Europe, it's for all over. Find a bank that has branches internationally in the country that you want to go to, or at least at minimal have international partnerships. So this is where I came in not say trouble, but this is where I had to do more research because I was looking for a bank that I could do in Colombia. There are no American banks that I have found in Colombia, but there are American banks with Colombian partnerships. So, for example, Chase, Wells Fargo, and HSB have international partnerships with Colombian banks. So I opened up a Chase account, and that allows me to be able to move money from my Chase account. And when I do set up an account in Colombia with Banco Colombia, I can move between the two accounts without much headache. It'll be a smoother transition. That is the best way that I can think of when you're going to a country that does not have American bank branches there. Europe may have American bank branches. They may have HSBC. I know HSBC is very heavy in Asia. It may have Chase. I don't quite know what all banks are in Europe and where in Europe American banks are, but that's definitely something that you can look into. I believe I put in our group chat Wise. So Wise it's like an intermediary bank in a sense where I connected it to my bank account here and I could withdraw money and put it in the Wise bank and convert that money into pesos, Colombian pesos. So when I use that card in a store or a restaurant in Colombia, it'll actually have already converted from USD into pesos. So I won't have to do any additional conversions. And when you use your Visa or MasterCard connected with your bank, then it always asks you, do you want us to convert it into whatever for a fee, whatever that percentage is, and then you just go ahead and click yes, and then you run the transaction. Or with the card, it's already done. So that's definitely something that I'm going to try out, and I will definitely make a posting on that when I use it, so that other people can hear my experience with it. I'm not going to use it until I get there, but it's something that definitely will help me with my brain trying to do the conversion and pulling up a calculator and all of that. I don't want to be bothered. Just run it and it pulls out in pesos and be done with it. But other options are SoFi, Chime, and then Bank of America. So Bank of America does have relationships with banks in other countries, just not in Colombia. So I couldn't mess with them. But that's definitely something to consider, starting another account. And I would just say, and I follow Matt Griffith of the Americano, and I believe that I included his link on the link sheet. If I didn't, I can. But he said something that was very poignant. He said, have multiple cards. Don't go anywhere with just one bank card, because if your card gets stuck in the machine or it gets stolen or lost or whatever the case is, then you're out of money. You're out of access to your funds. And if there's no branch in the country for you to go walk in and withdraw your money, then you're out of luck. So he's always like, have multiple cards in order to have backups to your funds or access to different accounts so that you always have the ability to withdraw money when you need it. Did you have any other question, Pamela?
No, that was really good. That was what I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, let's see if we can. Yay, taxes. Okay. So another thing that I came across that I didn't know about until Matt Griffith did an awesome video on expats was taxes. So there are tax exemptions that you can use to offset any American-based income for your income when you report. I didn't know that. Some places like Portugal and other places that have agreements set up with America don't double tax. So if you're living there in that country, then you just pay their taxes and you don't pay America, or you pay America and don't pay theirs, but you don't double tax. Colombia ain't one of them. Colombia is like, you got to pay us, and we don't care about America. You got to pay us. And America's like, yeah, you got to pay us too. But with these individual programs, the foreign earned income exclusion, the foreign housing exclusion, foreign tax credit, you can reduce your obligations and be exempted from being taxed in America. So you're going to have to do your own additional research on these. Definitely have an American-based accountant and an accountant in the country that you're moving to, so that you can cover all bases and make sure that you're not at fault of not paying taxes and wind up in tax jail or whatever. But I just found that this is very helpful because you don't want to be double taxed. You don't want to pay America and the country that you're in. You want to be able to hold on to some of that money. That's why one of the reasons why you leave it anyway, because you don't want to have all your check go towards everything else and not be able to hold some for yourself. So talk to your tax representatives, your accountant about these to see what the requirements are, because it may require being in the foreign country for X amount of days and showing proof of that, showing proof of residency as far as rental property, showing proof that you have an account in a foreign bank. It may show a number of different, you may have to show a number of different things in order to prove that you are not in the United States in order to qualify for these tax exemptions. So, and I'm going, for FYI, I am going to post this recording on YouTube so that you can access it later to go back and write all this down. Insurance. Okay, so travel insurance is not to be used permanently. Sometimes they want a definitive time length of how long you're going to be out of the country, how long you need it for. Sometimes you can do it annually. I did mine in for can't remember. I think I did an annual policy when I went to Portugal. I loved Alliance. They were super helpful. We did have to go to the ER with my son when we were out there. And because it was an emergency, I forgot and left our passports at home. If I had our passports on us, I wouldn't have had to pay at all. But because I forgot my passports, I had to pay like $100 for his emergency visit. $100. That's it. And when I got back home, I filed a claim and I sent in a picture of the bill from the hospital, and they paid it right back. So it was super helpful, super easy. I'm going to use Alliance again when going out. And then when we get our residency in Colombia, then I'll switch to, I guess, the Colombian insurance policy company there. But for travel, I prefer Alliance. I have the link in the form. That's something you can look into. It may not work for you. You may like it. I don't know. But once you get established in the country, then you can look into national health insurance. And that's whatever the policy is, the companies that they have there, that's how they operate. And you can only qualify once you have a visa. Please be mindful that if you're doing a global healthcare plan, I think Aetna, I think, has one. There are tons of global healthcare plans available that work here in the United States and abroad, but they may have age limits. They may have pre-existing condition restrictions, and they have limitations on repatriation. And that's one of the things that you absolutely need to have when you're getting your visa. They want to see that you have repatriation with your policy. So be mindful of that as well. Communications. Okay, so everybody has a cell phone. There's like 4 cell phones in this house, and I have to get eSIMs for every single one of them. eSIMs cannot be used on locked phones. So if you still have, okay, I guess raise your hand if you know what an eSIM is. Okay, so I guess no one knows. Okay, so an eSIM is, it allows you to access data internationally. So all phones have SIMs. All of your phones have SIMs, but your SIMs are for the United States. That means that if you go abroad, go to Canada, go to Mexico, it's going to charge you roaming because you are now accessing outside of your plan. So in order to get in order to have the ability to use your phone internationally without roaming charges, you need a SIM from that country, or in this case, an eSIM. And there are several different companies that have eSIM capability that is digitally connected to your phone. So you pay online, and then it's automatically connected to your phone. You can set it up within minutes. Like you can land in someplace wherever, and before you even leave the airport, you can set up your eSIM right there in the airport and have access to use data, and like WhatsApp, Uber, without having to be charged an arm and a leg with your carrier. Now, like I said at the top of this section, if your phone is locked, meaning if you're still making payments on your phone from AT&T or T-Mobile, whatever, you cannot use an eSIM. You have to use an eSIM connected with your carrier. So I think all of the carriers, they have international plans. With AT&T, last time I checked 2 years ago, it was $11 a day. So that means that I wouldn't get charged roaming if I paid for that plan. I would just be charged $11 a day, and I could use my phone just as if I was in Atlanta. Way too expensive for me. So you could go to a phone company, like in Portugal is Vodafone. I went to Vodafone and I got SIMs for my son's phones because their phones were locked. They had to actually remove the SIM from the phone and replace it with the SIM card from Portugal. But because now their phones are paid off, we can do it digitally, and within minutes. We don't have to go into any shop. We can just press a button and automatically have the ability to use Uber Eats or whatever wherever we are. And it is minimal in cost. It doesn't cost that much, maybe like $15, $19 a month. Now, if you do that, you can't make phone calls. So it's only for data like text, MapQuest, but you can use WhatsApp and you can make phone calls through WhatsApp. You can make phone calls through Instagram. You can make phone calls through Facebook. So there are ways to get around the no phone call rule if you do it through apps. I have put a link to, I guess, a comparable site where you can look at all the eSIM companies and make a decision from there, what works best for you and your budget. Oh, and also portable Wi-Fi stick. Before I click off of here, a portable Wi-Fi stick allows you to have access to Wi-Fi in rural places where there's no Wi-Fi. So that's very important too. I think everyone should have that regardless if you're leaving out of the country or if you're here. Having a portable Wi-Fi stick definitely will help you in those times when maybe the Wi-Fi in your area is spotty, or the electricity goes out, you still have the ability to communicate with people. Housing. Okay. Airbnb. I don't love Airbnb. As a matter of fact, I should be protesting it. I was boycotting it, but I cannot find any housing in the area that I want to go to that is not really connected to Airbnb. So I'm stuck. I have to do it. But is definitely an option if you want to extend your stay past a couple of weeks. If you want to do a month, Airbnb is an option. And a lot of people, they continue living in the Airbnb outside of Airbnb platforms. So they make an arrangement with the owners of the property and say, hey, if you let me stay here for a year, 6 months, I'll pay you X amount of money. Chances are they're going to take it because that's consistent money and they don't have to worry about Airbnb taking fees out. A lease is also an option, but depending on where you go, it may require a co-signer. Like in Colombia, I can't get a lease without a co-signer or somebody vouching for me. So my friend who owns 3 properties in Colombia, he's decided, oh, he didn't decide, he's offered to write a letter for me and write a recommendation letter so that I can rent property in Colombia because he is a Colombian property owner. So it's cheaper than Airbnb. It may not be cheaper once you start adding in additional fees like administrative costs or furnishing. It just depends on the country, and it depends on how the real estate is priced in that country. So that's something that you should definitely consider when looking at housing. Airbnbs, leasing, those are pretty much the only 2 options that you have. Or buying. You could always buy. But depending on the country may determine on how what the rules are for buying property in those countries. Some countries will extend mortgages. You may be able to get loans through banks. You may not, depending on the type of residency that you have. You may have to be a citizen. It all depends on the country as far as buying property and how you go about doing that, if you're buying cash or if you're trying to get a loan. Transportation. So Uber operates in 15,000 cities worldwide. They're all over the place. You can pretty much grab a local ride share like Bolt or Didi, which are comparable to Uber. But Uber is well known and just about everybody uses them. Public transportation, regional ride shares, and renting your own car or buying your own car. But like I said, when it comes to buying, if you're not paying cash, I don't really know what the rules and regulations are. It all depends on the country itself as far as leasing and getting funding from a bank. But there's plenty of opportunity to get around in other countries. It just depends on what you feel most comfortable in doing. Education. Okay. Homeschool. I homeschool. You can do homeschool anywhere. It just depends on what type of education system you want your kid in. Do you want to actually do the work yourself, or do you want to have someone else do it on an online platform? But there are different programs that you can look through and you can see what fits your need. World schooling. There are so many programs for world schooling. If you want your kids' education to be connected with the culture and the family dynamic, you can apply for the type of world schooling that packages everything together. It packages the house, the furniture, the transportation. You can stay in one location in like a family housing unit for a certain amount of time, and your kids go to a structured facility with other kids that are in the program, and the families, they engage with each other because it's a built-in community. That is an option. Local public schools, most of the schools around the world don't require a fee, some do. And then there may be schools that don't require funding, tuition, but still have extra supplementary fees that you have to pay for. Be aware that a lot of public schools around the world don't have the funding that American public schools do. So just have that understanding going forward when you make that decision. Private schools are usually religious based. They have like Catholic schools, different types of theme-based private schools around the world. There is a hefty price tag to that. But also know that just like the public schools, the private schools are often taught in the language of that country. So if your kids don't speak the language, they may have difficulty transitioning to those types of schools if they don't speak the language. International schools, not so much. Most international schools are in English or in another language like French or Dutch. So if your kids want to go to a school where they don't have to worry about learning another language, or the transition won't be as challenging for them, international schools are definitely the best option. However, they are expensive. I'm not even gonna lie. It depends on the country to determine how expensive they are, but they can get up until like $15,000-$20,000. So just understand that if you want to put your kid in an international school, you may have to do a little digging. Sometimes they do offer sibling discounts. And then if you do teach as well, maybe you can also couple that and try to diminish the cost of using international schools. Okay, we're coming to the end. VPNs, I mentioned that earlier, having a VPN is essential, not only because it allows you to access American broadcasting or streaming platforms or websites, but it also allows you to hide your IP. If you don't want the government or anybody knowing where you are in the world and you want them to think that you're in Atlanta, Georgia, you need a VPN. It doesn't cost that much. I use IP Vanish, and for me it was like $78 for 2 years, and then after the second year, the third year is going to cost me like $108. So that gives me unlimited devices. So me, my kids, all of our computers, all of our cell phones, we can all use that same VPN for that $78, and it'll mask our IP address wherever we go in the United States. Surrendering your license. So if you don't want to be called for jury duty, you're going to have to surrender your license, or else you're going to be called, and you don't want to have a warrant out on you because you didn't show up to jury duty. So that's something that you might want to consider. I don't know, but it's definitely something that should be thought of before leaving. As I stated, have multiple credit cards. If you're on medication, get 90 days worth of medication before you leave, because depending on where you go, you may not be able to access your prescription meds. Some places, they don't even have that type of medication in their country. You never know. So just get 90 days worth of medication before you leave so that you don't run into any immediate problems. I was going to get a storage facility, but I changed my mind because I don't want to deal with the headache of rising fees or anything of that nature once I'm outside of the country. And I definitely don't want to deal with someone breaking into them or flooding or whatever the case is. I will just have to minimize what I'm taking, what I'm saving, what I'm giving away, so that I don't have that much to have to store. So that's where I am in my process. I would just like to end this presentation with two sayings. You're not running from, you're moving towards. A lot of people are hesitant to talk about moving because they don't want the stigma of people saying, oh, you're just trying to run away from the US. No, it is not running away from chaos. It is not running away from toxicity. It is running towards a change of mentality. It is running towards sanity. Is you're moving towards a better state of being. There is nothing wrong with self-preservation. There is nothing wrong with taking care of your family. There is nothing wrong of trying to find a place where you can feel calm and secure. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. There are people who can't go and want to go. There are people who can't go and don't want to go. Whatever their case is, if that's not you, you should not feel obligated to explain why you're making a move. And you should feel comfortable in knowing that you're doing what's best for yourself. For me, I liken it to putting a mask on myself on an airplane. I can't help anybody before I help myself. I have got to take care of my mental state, my physical state before I can help anyone else. And that's where I am. That's how I'm processing this. The other thing that I want you to understand is you are not alone. The citizenship renunciation fee has been reduced by 80%. There are so many people leaving and renouncing their citizenship in the United States that there is a 1-month backlog of people turning in their citizenship. And the government's like, there's so many of y'all, we reducing the cost by 80%. It is now less than $1,000, less than $900 to say, I don't want to be an American anymore. So you are not alone. This process is one that's shared by many. And if you need help going forward and going through this process, it's not hard to find anyone that can give you pointers and advice and help you along your way. And I am glad to do that any way that I can. I will be making content and posting on YouTube as I go through this process, documenting my journey so that I could share what I'm learning with other people so that they will have the knowledge to not make the same mistakes as me, or just have the expectation of what is going to happen or what they should be mindful of when they start their journey or go through it. So thank you so much. I definitely have enjoyed going through this. I know it's an extra 30 minutes longer than I expected, but I wanted to make sure that I gave you enough information, not to overwhelm you, but to empower you on your own journey. And if you have any questions, I am here to answer it. And I'm going to stop sharing right now so that we can dive into the questions that you may have. Okay, light of mind. Well, thank you,
Thank you
Pam.
so much. Yes, yes. Hands, claps, applause. That was a beautiful presentation. My question is, do you personally, and you may have already discussed this earlier, I came in late. Do you plan on putting your things in storage, or are you selling everything, or are you leaving what you can and taking what you can? How are you moving forward with bringing what you desire to take with you?
So I looked at my bedroom today and I was just like, oh my God, I just want to throw all of this away. It's very overwhelming. I'm not getting a storage unit. I'm telling my kids to just pack what they want to keep in boxes, and we're just gonna keep them in the bedroom. So I live with my mom, and we all have our own bedroom. So I'm just like, just pack it, leave it in a box, and then I'll tend to it later. We've already made 2 or 3 drops to Goodwill, and we'll do another one before we head out. Um, I'm taking way more than I need to. I've got to thin it out. I I've got to thin it out. But I don't want to take more than necessary. And my concern is looking like I'm moving into the country. So with Colombia, they give you an automatic 90-day visa, and you can renew that for another 90 days. So when I go there, all of us are going to have our carry-on and our check bag, and we're going to have the dog. So I don't want us to look like we're moving into Colombia, even though that's our intention. So I don't know how I'm going to get around that, but yeah, I'm not getting a storage unit. I'm just not doing it. If I can't pack it up and leave it in a corner or take it with me in a bag, is not going. We're just giving it away.
Thank you so much for answering that.
I'm sorry, that was way long-winded.
No, not at all. Not at all. That makes sense, as to leave what you can with someone that you trust,
Mhm.
and giving away, just compounding it as
Mhm.
much as you can. That makes sense.
Anyone else have any questions?
I just want to say this was a beautiful presentation, and thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. I need to put in the chat the link. Where's the chat? Because I don't want you to leave without getting the PDF. And this has tons of links in it. And it also has a link to my YouTube channel that I will be putting content in. And the first upload will be this meeting. So if you want to go back to that, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I can put my YouTube link is in the PDF. So at the very end of the PDF, it has my YouTube link there. Yeah. And so you should just be able to click on the link in the PDF, and it should take you. Yep, you're welcome. You're welcome. And if for whatever reason you can't access it, follow me on Facebook, and I'll be posting the video on Facebook as well, and my YouTube link, so that people can access that there. Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions, I think that this will be the end of the presentation. I'm so glad that you were able to find value from it. I know it was a lot, but it is a lot. And I hope that it helps you on your own journey. So you ladies have a wonderful night, and you can reach out to me. You can contact me offline at any time, and I'll definitely reach back out and we can connect that way. You have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.